What's up, everybody? This is the Tied to the Land podcast, where we believe that everybody is tied to the land in some way, shape, or form. On this podcast, we'll explore the intimate connection that people feel with the land beneath their feet, while telling the stories of folks whose lives have been impacted by their roots to the rural lifestyle. This podcast is brought to you by Arrowhead Land Company, where their mission is to create, inspire, or advance a connection to the land in every person throughout the world. What's going on, guys? My name's Andrew Schultz. This is the Tied to the Land podcast, and I'm here with the one and the only Lake Pickle. Lake, how's it going, man?
Man, it's good. I appreciate you having me on. It's good to talk to you. Like, we were chatting a bit before we got on. You and I haven't caught up in some time, but happy to see you, happy to talk to you, and happy to get into all the different topics today.
Yeah, man. Well, we appreciate you hopping on short notice. I reached out to Lake, and we got one specific topic in mind today that we really want to hammer on that's super relevant right now in the outdoor community, which is that our public lands are under attack from recent legislation. And Lake is with OnX Hunt, and he does a lot of stuff in the outdoor space, diehard hunter, family man, married man, you know, just a good guy with a level head, and is really well known amongst the outdoor community. So we thought it'd be a great person to bring on and speak to some of the issues that we're hearing about right now. So Lake, if you can, just start out with telling everybody a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, maybe how you got into hunting, and then we can get into the nuts and bolts of that heavier stuff in a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So I was born and raised in central Mississippi, and so if you're not all that familiar with central Mississippi, like, you're exposed to the hunting and fishing, like the whole outdoor culture early. You know, it's just kind of part of what everyone does down there for the most part. And so I was, you know, like I said, introduced to it at a very early age. Even like before I was going out there and hunting or doing any of the fishing myself, it was just like a common thing that my dad, my uncle, or whoever, you know, they were going hunting or they were going fishing. And so just something that I did really early, but I didn't really get like just heavily involved myself into being just like kind of like a really self-propelled, like going upon my own initiative out hunting, until I got introduced to spring turkey hunting by a very good friend of mine that I met at church. And when I found spring turkey hunting, it kind of just snowballed, man. Like, I just fell in love with all of it. Like, I realized how kind of deep you could go chasing turkeys, just kind of how crazed you could be into it. And turkey hunting, then I started bow hunting, and then I started getting more interested in waterfowl hunting. And then before I knew it, I was just, if there was a season open, I was out hunting something. I just couldn't get enough of it. And then that led to an interest in hunting industry stuff, you know, especially being from Mississippi. Primos was just, you know, a huge part of that, especially with them being a brand and a company that came from the state that I was from. I looked at Will Primos like he hung the moon, man. And so I wanted to do that, like, at an early age. Like, the story that I tell everyone is, like, I would have been like, I don't know, like 9 or 10 years old, 11 maybe, and Mom had one of those, like, you know, very common short conversations you have with your kid. You're like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I told him, like, I want to go work for Will Primos. That's like just what I wanted to do. And just between some effort and way more the Lord's timing, it worked out. That's just kind of the condensed story of it. I got an internship with a show called Midwest Whitetail. That led to me being put in contact with Brad Ferris. Me and him stayed in contact for about a year and a half, because I was in college at Mississippi State, and I ended up running into Brad in person and at a local, like, sports show. And I was like, man, I've never met Brad in person. I've been emailing this guy trying to get a job at Primos for like a year. I should go, like, let him put a face with a name. And you'll get a kick out of this, Andrew. One thing I've always had going for me is someone might forget everything about me, but they don't forget my name, because it's so odd. So, like, So as soon as I went up to Brad and said, "Hey, I'm Lake Pickle," he knew exactly. He's like, "Oh, you're that kid that's been emailing me that does the video stuff." I was like, "Yeah," and again, just the Lord's timing. They had 4 guys that were in the video department at Primo's leave to pursue another opportunity the week prior to me having this run-in with Brad. And he calls me like 3 days later and was like, "Hey, would you consider, taking a semester or so off of school? I need someone to film an elk hunt in like 2 weeks." And I was like, "Yep, I'm going to do that." And yeah, that's how it happened. And then like I was at Primo's for a little over like the better part of almost 10 years, just south of 10 years, 9 years and several months. Moved to OnX. I've been at OnX for a little over 3 years now. Ran social media for them for a long time. Now I'm in more of a marketing managing role. And now I'm doing some stuff for MeatEater, which is super exciting. Hosting a podcast for them. It's going to be called Backwoods University, and that's going to come out June the 9th. So yeah, that's like the super condensed version, but that's where I'm at now. And the outdoors mean a whole lot to me, as I'm sure it does to you and probably the vast majority of folks that listen to your show.
No doubt, man. No doubt. I mean, for a lot of people listening, and especially maybe younger kids or younger adults, I mean, you're living the dream. I mean, you got to work underneath Will Primos and Brad Ferris, and now you're tied in with the OnX people, and I mean, Steve Ranilla and everything he's got going with MeatEater. I mean, do you ever have to pinch yourself and be like, man, I cannot believe the journey that I've been on and the wild places it's taken me?
Yeah, that's one of the things, man, that I've always tried to keep some perspective of. Like I never want to, because especially like during the Primos years, like I got to see and do a lot of cool things and see a lot of cool places and meet a lot of incredible people. And I never wanted to be in any of those situations and felt like I deserved to be there, or that that I was entitled to be there. Like I always wanted to keep a sense of like, man, like how in the world did you end up here? I don't know, but I'm thankful I did. That's the way, that's the mindset I wanted to keep the entire way through, because it's just been, I guess, such an incredible opportunity, and I do really feel like I'm thankful for it. I feel like that's never been lost on me, like how fortunate and blessed I've been to just do this stuff for a living, right? It's like I truly do like love my job, and I realize how fortunate I am to be in that situation.
Yeah, man, God is so good. I love hearing your story, because you're living the dream of every other young outdoors man or woman out there, just trying to break into the industry, trying to get paired up with someone. I'm curious, have you been able to provide similar type of opportunities to other folks that look up to you? I mean, you've amassed a pretty strong social media following. A lot of people in the industry know who you are. Do you see people and think, man, that's young Lake right there. That's a young Lake Pickle. I'm going to try to help them out and get them going.
Yeah, man, I still, get Instagram DMs all the time that, they're not all like the same word for word message, but similar lines of thought. They're like, "Hey, usually it's a late high school or college age guy. He's trying to get into filming. He's trying to do, something along the lines, get into," and I look at that, especially now, because then it's changed so much. And it really is like, it's such a small fraction of folks that it actually works out for, right? But I would be so inauthentic if I, told any of those guys that asked me that, like, "Hey, don't even try," And the reason I say that is because I had several people tell me that, except for, man, one of the biggest blessings I had in my life was having supportive parents. Like my parents, like they knew how much of a pipe dream it was for me to be trying to do the the Primo stuff and everything, and they were always supportive of it. But so when guys like that reach out to me, I always give them just the best advice that I can. Like, "Hey, don't be afraid to work for free in some instances if it gets you experience." Like I have kind of a formatted list of what to tell those guys of things that they can do. But I will never like hear one of those people reach out to me, I'll never be like, don't even try. Cause that would be, I would be a hypocrite, because that's what I did, and it worked out. Thank the Lord. So yeah, I always tell them, like, hey man, take a shot. You never know.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a feeling that'd be the case because, you're such a humble guy by nature. And unfortunately, and you've probably run into this, a lot of people in the outdoor industry, when they start to get a little bit of notoriety or they've built up a resume and they've done a thing or two, you see their egos start to get in the way a little bit, and they forget where they came from, and they forget that they were that same kid with a pipe dream once upon a time, So I just respect the heck out of you for that, because I don't see that ever changing. You're just a guy that's willing to give back and willing to help others, and it's just awesome that you've been able to do that.
Man, I appreciate that, man. I had some really good influences, like at Midwest Whitetail. The folks who taught me the most when I was there was Aaron Warbritton and Greg Clements. Incredibly down-to-earth, humble guys. And then at Primos, like Will Primos, Brad Ferris, Jimmy Primos, like you've been around some of those guys. Like they're humble, they're down-to-earth. Like I heard somebody say one time, he said, man, some of these guys in this industry, they strut around like they cured cancer and all they did was shoot a deer on TV. Yeah. And I was like, that's true.
Yeah. No
And you
doubt.
don't want to be that guy. Like you don't. So like, yeah, there's no sense in the whole ego thing. Like there's just no point in it. So
Yeah, no doubt. I agree. And I think the outdoor space would be a much better place if we could, I guess the world for that matter would be a better place if we could get rid of some of the ego problems that we run into. But man, I'm sure everybody's curious to know, is there any particular hunt that stands out from your time with the Primos boys? I mean, they've obviously killed a lot of awesome animals, been on a lot of cool hunts. For you personally, is there a favorite that sticks out in your mind or a story that you'd like to tell?
yeah, man. Man, there's a bunch of them. All right. But there really is. There's a lot that just come to mind. But if I was going to tell one, it's one of those like, how in the world did I end up here moments. So I'd been at Primos it was my third or fourth fall with Primos, and they told me that summer before that, they're like, hey, you're going to get an archery elk tag this year. And I was like, and at this point I'd filmed a lot of elk hunts.
And how old were you at this point?
25.
25.
Yep. I think 24, 25, somewhere in there. So it's like immediately, like, I'd filmed a lot of it. I'd been around it. I was definitely like familiar with it, but holding the camera and holding the bow is two very different things. And and then like the time gets closer to it, and they're like, hey, and they kind of lined out. We always like set a schedule. And so I saw that the trip that I was going on, Will was going to be there. And they're like, yeah, that's what we're kind of shooting for. Like the kind of the arc, the storyline, you will, of this episode is like, Will's going to call your first archery bull in. And I was like, oh.
Oh my goodness. I'm surprised you didn't pass out and hit the floor.
Oh, dude. I mean, because again, it's like at this point, I had been with Primos for a couple of years. I had hunted with Will a lot, but it's still, Will, as humble as he is, there was still like that little 12-year-old version of myself that was like, what in the world is going on here? And so we get out there, and there were some mishaps because, there was some instances of me not getting drawn back at the right time, and just hiccups, man. Like first time holding the bow on an elk hunt, hiccups. And it was day 4, middle of the day. We'd been on a bull that morning, got eyes on him. He had a bunch of cows. It just didn't work out. And it was me, Will Primos, Troy Ruiz, and Jordan Blissett. And it was, like I said, I'd say probably 10:30 in the morning. And we're like, hey, there's a big tank at the top of this next mountain. Like with the way the wind's blowing, let's side hill around it. We'd hunted this place for quite some time. We know that typically like some like elk will bed down kind of on the side of this mountain, and they'll kind of bed right below that tank, and they'll kind of meander up there, get a drink from time to time. And the wind wasn't right to go to the water hole, but the wind was right to side hill and potentially get under them if they were bedded in there. And so we make our way around there, and you know how that stuff goes, especially when you're trying to play the wind and not spook anything and all that stuff. So it took us, probably an hour and a half to get to where we wanted to get. And I remember we get to this point, and the way the wind's blowing, we can smell elk, right? And we're like, yep, there's some bedded in there. So immediately, like, maybe we got a game to play. And we get set up, and it was just this perfect setup. If you can get in like that kind of denser timber at that point in the day, like you can get some really good hides and really into the shadows, and you can just hide so well. And so we get set up. Jordan's filming over my shoulder. Troy's dropped back a little bit further, running a wide camera, and Wilbur's going to go to calling. And we kind of get set up. We're like, all right, let's see what happens. There's obviously some elk up there, and Will starts calling. Immediately, bulls start bugling. And things just start happening. And the funny part of the story is the first bull to come down in there was this like very young bull, but I did not care. Like that young bull was about to get it. He had a rack and everything, but he was what most folks refer to as a raghorn. I did not care. I drew back on him. I was about to shoot him. The only reason I didn't shoot that elk is because he never gave me a good shot. Just like the way he came down, he just never gave me a good shot. And Will's, at this point, things have progressed. Like Will's probably 80 yards back off where the hill rolls over, and Will's amping up his calling, and that little bull gets to where, it kind of smells a rat and it kind of runs off. And we can hear this bigger bull bugling, and there's he's got cows in there, all that stuff. Well, when that little bull spooks and runs back, Will goes to bugling like crazy, because we've seen this scenario before. Kind of what happens is you have a younger bull run in there, spook, and run back into the herd. Will go to bugling, and the picture we're trying to paint with the calling is that this bull came in there and this other bull ran him out. Yeah. Well, it worked like a charm, and when that bull ran in there and Will went to bugling, that herd bull went nuts and just starts immediately. The next time he bugled, I was like, holy cow, like this is happening. And I put my release on the loop, and I'm just sitting there, and next thing I know, I can see him like just marching down through these ponderosa pines, and I'm just like, this is it. Like, this elk was bugling and walking so with such an intentionality. Like the second I saw him, I was like, I'm gonna get a shot at this elk. Like there was no question about it. He was just walking with such purpose. And
right now, I'm so dialed in on your story. I feel like I'm there.
And I had, like, one of the things that I had is, again, like I had such good mentors, and probably the biggest advantage I had from having filmed so many archery elk hunts at that time is I had been in so many situations where an elk was close to me. And like Brad had told me, Brad and Will, time and time again, they're like one of the most crucial things is drawing your bow at the right time. Like you can draw it too early, and you can wait and you can get caught drawing. Like getting drawn back is huge. And I had picked out this spot, and there was this one big pine that the elk was going to walk behind. I was like, when his head goes behind there, I got to get this bow back. And he's walking. His head goes behind there. I pull the bow back. He pops out on the other side, just still walking. And at this point, like, I'm drawn back, I'm anchored, I'm like, oh my God, like, like I didn't spook him. He's still coming. And I had a call in my mouth in case I was going to try to stop him. And he stops dead broadside and bugles. Like, I don't have to stop him or anything. He stops and bugles, and he's 25 yards. And I just shoot him. He runs off. I had a full come apart. I was just losing my mind. Yeah. And just a double lung, kind of like upper third of the lung. He just done. He ran up the hill where we couldn't see him, but he was done. Will comes up there, gives me a hug, and we walk up there, and he didn't go 70 yards. And big bull, like I said, the only reason I shot a big bull is because the little one didn't give me a shot first. Yeah. But so that was incredible enough, right? Like, that's my first archery bull. Will's there. He's so pumped. Jordan and Troy are pumped. And later on in that trip, like, it was Will's turn to hunt, and they were like, I thought I was going to be filming. They're like, all right, you're going to call one in for Will now. I was like, I'm going to do what? Yeah.
Oh,
so So to fast forward this story, I ended up getting to call one in for Will. Will shoots it. Bull runs off, dies, and we get to the bull, and this is in the evening time, and kind of the best plan that we had is that Jordan and Troy would go and get the pack frames, and me and Will would start cutting up the bull, and we would get as far as we could before the pack frames got there. So they leave, and it's just me and Will, and we're just sitting there working on this bull, and we get to a stopping point, like it's as quartered up as it can be. It's on the drop cloth, like we can't do anything but wait for the pack frames to get there. And at this point, it's getting dark, and Will just kind of looks up at me. He goes, "I'm tired. I'm gonna lay down." That's a good idea. And so me and him just pull the backpack under your head, just laying there. This elk and the mountains behind us, and there's still elk bugling behind us, and you get that out there in that part of the mountains, the stars are just stupid, right? So they're just incredible. So looking up at these stars, there's elk bugling behind me. There's a quartered up elk. I've killed an elk a few days before. I just got to call one in for Will. None of these things do I feel like I'm deserving to do. So I'm laying there going how in the world? How did this happen? How am I even here? And we're just laying there, and Will just goes, "Man, we sure are blessed to get to do this, you know?" And I was like, yeah, we are. We really are. And at this point, Will's in his 60s at the time, had been doing this for 30 some odd years. And I'll never forget that. Just laying out there with that quartered up bull and him saying that, and just that culmination of that whole trip. It was just so much to take in. But
that's amazing.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was great.
Man, that's cool. You referenced wild turkeys earlier, and that's where your love is, or where your heart is. I mean, and I've got a good buddy. He's primarily an elk hunter, and I would give it all up for the wild turkey. I mean, I love hunting. I love it all, but I'm ate up with turkeys. What's that like for you? Are you pro elk? Are you pro turkey? What, if you had to hunt one animal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I'll preface it with I'm just thankful that they don't compete with each other, that they happen at very different times of year.
No doubt.
I don't actually have to make that decision. But if I did, I couldn't, the wild turkey's where it all started for me, man. So it was the catalyst for everything else. So I would have to go with turkeys. I do. I mean, I love elk, but I couldn't, it's the wild turkey, man. It's got to be.
Yeah, no doubt, man. How's your turkey season been this far? Do you have any more hunts lined up?
Tentatively, yes. I don't know that for sure. I killed one here in Montana 2 days ago, and then I may have one more trip to the Northeast after this. It's kind of up in the air right now. We'll see. It's been a fun enough spring that, you always want to hunt them as long as you can, right? But it's been a fun enough spring. If that other tentative trip doesn't work out, I'm fine with it. It's been a fun season, but we'll see.
They eventually wear you down, man. Those chess matches with those gobblers, they eventually wear you down.
Yeah. Man, you don't. It's one of those things. It's when we get, especially because it's not I don't hunt less than I do when I was at Primo's, but it's just more. It was more intensive, I guess, because there was just so much with the camera gear, and it's just I would get to the end of the spring, and it's one of those things I wouldn't realize how exhausted I was until the first day when turkey season was over, and I'd be like, holy crap, I'm tired.
Yeah.
But
Do you still bring a camera along with you most hunts, or do you like hunting without a camera?
Honestly, a good mix of both these days. I say that it's definitely more with the camera because we do a lot of stuff for OnX and whatnot. But I hunt more without one than I did when I was at Primo's for sure.
Cool. Yeah. I was wondering because a lot of folks who've carried around the camera for so long, and Ashley, she's sitting here in the room with me. Y'all can't see her, but she's done a lot of filming of hunts and stuff, and we went on a turkey hunt this year, and her and we doubled up on a couple birds out at my farm in Oklahoma. And she was like, it was just so cool to take in that moment and not have to worry about the camera. not have to worry about the footage. Like, it's just so much more raw, and you feel so much more present without it. So I wondered if you've gone through any of that yourself.
So we got to a point. There was a time at Primo's when we were still doing Outdoor Channel, but we were also starting to do more on like YouTube, like digital platforms. And so me and Jordan, like, again, I dare not ever complain, but we were just doing so much. Like, we were just like the amount of time, like, we legitimately, like, we may get 2 weekends a year that we could hunt that was not, a work related hunt. And we did that for probably a 3 or 4 year stretch where it was just so much. And what we started doing, we would normally be done with getting everything we needed to do for shows. We would be done around like early to mid-May. And we would make a point to make a trip somewhere that was open in the late part of May and go, and like 0 cameras allowed. Like, cool. and it was like, and we tried to explain, it's like, I never want to frame up or like try to get the point across that we weren't enjoying ourselves when we had cameras. We were. It was just nice to like have at least one trip where like, hey, we're just going hunting,
Yeah.
That's it. And there was a little bit of that for sure.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing all that, man. That's an inspiration to a lot of people, I'm sure, hearing your story and getting to hunt with the Primos boys, and now your career's evolving, past that. But of course, you wouldn't be where you're at without them and everything that you experienced there. So I appreciate you sharing that. So referenced it earlier. What I really want to get into with you today is what's going on with recent legislation and public lands and the privatization of our public lands, trying to make them available for sale. And it's a hot topic right now in the outdoor community. And I know that between your work at OnX and what you're doing with MeatEater and Steve Ranilla, I know that that's got to be the center of your world right now to some degree, I would think. So what are you hearing, for everybody that's listening that doesn't know what's going on, if you could give an explanation of kind of the things I just referenced and your feelings about it. Let's just dive off the deep end into that and take it wherever you want to go.
Sure. So, one, thanks for wanting to talk about that. That's like a subject like this, and in my opinion, especially to folks like you and me, to folks like that listen to this show, this is of like extremely high importance. And so I'll start off with it just going off of like what I've discovered to be some like general like FAQs, kind of like just stuff like, hey, what's going on, what's happening. And so the first thing is kind of like the whispering, the rumor, the hear, like, hey, they may try to sell off some public land. That started happening in like February. You started hearing some of that roll around, and no one knew if it was going to happen or not. And then after what's happened very recently with the reconciliation process, there's still some like, hey, yeah, I've heard about that, but is that happening? Is it not happening? And so like, number one important thing, like is it, public land's going to try to be put off for sale? Like, that's no longer hypothetical. Like what happened, I think it was last week with the Committee on Natural Resources, like that is on the reconciliation bill. So it still has to get passed through the Senate, but it is on the bill. So it's no longer like some like thing that could happen. Like it's on paper. They're trying to make it happen. The other thing is kind of what we saw. I don't know. You may be familiar with last fall, the deal in Colorado where they tried to ban mountain lion hunting, right? Yeah. So like what's on the bill here involves specifically public lands in Utah and Nevada. And so what you can run into is some of the stuff that we kind of almost ran into with the Colorado thing. Is it's like, it's easy take me, for example. I live in Mississippi. It's easy for me to look at it and go, oh, that's not Mississippi public land. It's easy to do that and just write that off and be like, well, that's for them to worry about, not me. But so with all this happening, and try to explain like why this is such a big deal. Like, so no, if this does happen and they sell off this large amount, I think it's over 500,000 acres that could get sold, which is a lot.
That is.
You're in real estate. You know how much acreage that is.
That's a ton.
It's a
Absolutely.
lot. And so if you're sitting there saying to yourself, like, why should I, as a resident in some other state, be worried about that? Is that sets an extremely scary precedent.
It's a slippery
That's
slope.
It's a slippery slope. It's an anthill that you do not want to kick. It's the same way that we framed it up for the Colorado mountain lion thing. It's like, yeah, they're going after mountain lion hunting in Colorado. Sure, that's not whitetail hunting in Mississippi, but if that's one chip out of that block, that's a scary precedent. That's an extremely scary precedent. And if they're able, like if it's able for public land to be sold off to private ownership, that is a precedent that I do not want set by any stretch.
Yeah.
And so the thing goes in now. It's like, what do you do about it? And that's one of the other like FAQ type things. Is like, even in today's time with podcasts and YouTube videos and Instagram, like you see, like there's been a lot of talk around this, and there's a lot of like, hey, let your voice be heard. Absolutely, you should. Where some people like get lost is like, okay, well, how do I do that?
Let me just scream on social media and post things, and
Yeah,
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 that's
yeah.
what a
Well,
lot of
some
people resort to. It seems like.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, it's like, and I'm not telling anyone to not do that. If it's raising awareness, like don't be disrespectful, but
Sure.
like raise awareness for sure. But the most important thing you can do is let your representatives know, like 10 out of 10. And it's so easy to do. And some folks are like, I don't want to call the number because it can be intimidating to talk to their office on the phone. Fine, send them an email, you know? And I can tell you from personal experience, because the other thing is you can kind of get caught in the mindset of like, are they really going to read that email? It's easy to think that way, or like,
It's kind of
there's a
like
lot of
the
people.
does my vote really matter conversation.
Right, right, right. And so I can tell you from personal experience, it was like, I think it was back in 2022, Mississippi, compared to, the further you go east, the less public land there is, overall. That's just kind of thing. So like Mississippi's like 92% private land. So we don't have a whole lot of public compared to states like Utah, Nevada, Montana, whatever. But the public land that we do have in Mississippi, I care a lot about. I care about every acre of public land that we got. And we actually had a WMA in Mississippi that tried to sell it. They tried to do like this extremely like under the table, pretty corrupt deal where they were like just gonna sell this entire WMA and just kind of not tell anybody. Well, people caught wind of it. I'm not, if you've ever heard of Howl for Wildlife, they're one of the organizations that makes it very easy to let your voice be heard. And they got caught wind of that, like, hey, they're trying to legitimately sell this entire WMA in Mississippi to private ownership. And through, just in the state of Mississippi, and just through people calling and sending emails to the representatives in Mississippi, when they had the meeting that this was going to like get discussed at, I don't remember what they said word for word, but the representatives were like, we have never in our lives gotten an influx from constituents about one singular subject that was so like unanimously in one direction. They were like, we are not selling this WMA. We are sorry. It's done. And so,
Please leave us alone. We're sorry.
yeah. So like, and I say like, I mean, that's an anecdote that's specific to me in my home state, but I'm telling you that stuff works and it makes impact. So,
And for a frame of reference, how many acres was that WMA?
I want to say that one's, I could find it. I mean, it's kind of like 3,500, something like that. It's not a huge one.
We're talking over 500,000 in this go around. I mean,
Yeah.
but it's cool to see sportsmen unite, and outdoor enthusiasts unite. I mean, and that was going to be one of my things that I brought up is, normally I'm not afraid to get into politics, but no matter which way you lean, I think both, conservatives, liberals, Republicans, Democrats. I mean, I feel like everybody's pretty united on this issue at hand right now. Would you say that's fair?
I would say it's very fair because, man, we say it all the time, and it's going to sound, kind of. It's not. I'm genuinely here. You hear it a lot, but it's true. Like this issue is not. it's not a Republican issue. It's not a Democratic issue. This is one like everybody can look at and go, this is not what we need to do. This is an extremely myopic view. Like, it's such a short-term gains thing. Like, it is such a short-term gains thing. Like, some of it's talked about for, to address affordable housing and so and so. And and this isn't data that I pulled myself. I heard it on MeatEater. Some public land in some states has been sold before, prior to this, in the name of affordable housing. And I don't think any of it's actually been used for affordable housing. There's not even any on it. Like, it's just like a thing that people can do, and they'll go, okay, we are addressing the affordable housing crisis. Like, I'm here to tell you, this is not the way. This is extremely like short-term gains, long-term loss. Like, you sell off public land, you're not getting it back. You sell off public land, you put in place a very scary precedent. And like, man, public land means a lot to me, like a lot. And and it's not like I hunt solo public land. I hunt a lot of private land too, but I hunt public, and I enjoy it. I've had a lot of really good memories made on public land. I think it's one of the most, like, it's one of the greatest assets we have in this country. Like, go look up hunting and fishing outside of the United States and see how much public land they've got. Like, we're used to it because we've been born in this place, but the notion, man, that I went to Africa a few years ago and was talking to some of those guys over there. The notion to them that there was a place that they, as just a citizen of a country, could just go into and hunt, that's crazy. And like, I'm not about to let that just go away. Like, it's so awesome that we have it and we can't lose it.
Well, especially you were talking about fair housing, and you think about the nature of these properties, these public lands, compared to like fair housing developments. I mean, these are remote places. Infrastructure is expensive and hard to come by. I mean, you talk about running power and water out into the middle of 500,000 acres. I mean, good luck. I mean, there's a reason these are remote places. So then it begs the question of what you're saying. Okay, is this really what they're trying to do here? Because they know how costly this is going to be. They know how time consuming this is going to be. There's got to be something else going on. But it's definitely a slippery slope, and you do that in one state or two states in this case, and then next thing you know, Montana's under attack, and Colorado's under attack, and Mississippi's under attack again. Oklahoma, where we're headquartered. I mean, you just never know, and so it's better to draw a hard line. And that's why we're a real estate company. I make my living, and we make our living by helping people buy and sell private land. But we've drawn a hard line in the sand that says, okay, not all land is meant to be owned. It's meant to be enjoyed by outdoor enthusiasts and sportsmen, and just there's so many people that appreciate our public lands, and we don't want to sell that. Us as a real estate company, we're not sitting here salivating, drooling at the mouth like, yeah, come on, sell off these public lands and then maybe we'll get our piece of the pie. It's got to be bigger than that, and I hope everybody's looking at it with the same lens on.
Yeah, and like we talked about, I think we mentioned this before we started recording, it's like sometimes people draw this line that doesn't exist. They'll look at someone, not even in a real estate company, but someone, they're like, oh, this guy owns 200 acres. He probably doesn't care if we lose public land. Like, incorrect. That's not like, it's a symbiotic relationship, or at least it should be. Like, the public landowner needs private landowners. The private landowner needs public land. Like, they work off, they're not opposing sides. I refuse to believe that. And yeah, that's the other thing too. It's like, some places aren't supposed to be privately owned. Like, public land is for the people, and like I said, my wife and I, we bought 10 acres last week that we plan to build a house on. I'm not I'm not anti private land ownership at all. Like, it's just our public lands are public and they should stay that way. And that's the way that I even look at it. Like, and if I was actually to ever get like fired up about this particular subject, it's like, in my mind, because the way it worked too with this particular committee, it got slipped in the last, like right before midnight, House Committee on Natural Resources, and it's like and they put that on the docket that like, hey, we may sell these public lands. In my mind, I'm like, dude, that's not yours to put up for sale.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like that would be no different than if I were
Put your neighbor's house up for sale.
if I walked out of the office here and put a for sale sign on somebody's truck and they're like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm selling this truck. Well, it's not yours. Well, I'm selling it. Like the same principle. Like that's not yours to sell, man. The government doesn't own that. The people do.
Yeah.
And that's, you draw a line right there, like hard stop. Like it's not yours to sell.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I mean, government's shown that if the people just lay over and let them push their agenda right on through, I mean, that's exactly what's going to happen, you know? So
Yeah.
going back to making your voice heard and not just laying over. And I feel like, you know, sportsmen and outdoorsmen and just folks who enjoy these lands, they're not the type that are just going to lay over very easily, I don't think. And so I like the position that we're in. I'm curious, I was going to ask you because, you know, you hear grumblings of, oh, this is Trump or, oh, this is so-and-so. I mean, have you tracked it back to where this is really coming from and why? You know, what is the motive behind this movement to sell off some of our public lands?
I can't like go as far, like I don't have it as far back as you're asking. I wish I did. I do know that like Utah, like not Utah as a whole, like I said, but like some of the government in place in Utah, it's no strange thing for them to try to pull this kind of thing. So like, but whether it's like a Trump thing, like I really don't know. And like I said, and I've run into this before, this is a subject that some people try to avoid. I don't. It's like some folks have reached out to me. I haven't responded to them because I see no point in it, but some folks reach out to me. They're like, most of the hunters are Republicans. Y'all voted for this administration. This is the reason it's happening anyway. And I'm like, look, dude, let's say you're correct. Let's say that 100% of the people that are hunters voted for Trump. That's not true, but let's play a game and say that it's correct. It doesn't matter. And here's what I mean. Like, anybody that I vote for, a president, a senator, a mayor of a town, just because I vote for them, that doesn't mean I have to agree with every single thing that they do. That's not what that means. That means that, like, if I choose to cast a ballot for a particular representative, that means that I looked at what they were proposing and I said, overall, this is the best choice. That does not mean that I'm going to agree and fall in love with everything that they do and mindlessly follow it. That's not what that means. Yeah. And it's the same thing. It's like that's an asinine thought, you know. Like even like my wife and I don't agree on everything, you know. You know what I mean? So it's like that, like to paint this picture that like just because you voted for a particular person means that you agree with every single thing that they do. Like, no, that's a hollow thought. Like that, and even it's just, and there's not a problem, I don't think, even if a Mississippi representative wasn't, you know, had something to do with these public lands going up for sale. That doesn't necessarily mean I hate this person for the rest of time. But I am probably going to call their office and go, hey, can I talk? You know, can I at least leave a message and voice my opinion on why I think this is a bad idea? You know what I mean? It's like it's not that black and white. It's not that absolute. Like there's room for us to have more complex thoughts than that. You know?
No doubt. Yeah, and everybody wants it to be so black and white. And you know, the thing that keeps coming to my mind is having grace towards our leaders, because at the end of the day, they're trying to solve other problems. And you know, you're in a leadership role now. It sounds like at OnX, and you know, I'm a business owner, and like it is hard to find a universal solution for anything, I don't care what it is, that everybody's going to be okay with. Because there's always going to be somebody that feels like they're losing, or there's always going to be somebody that disagrees. Even if it serves the greater good, 90% of people, and it solves the issues for 90% of people, you're still going to have the 10% that are really unhappy with the situation. And it's a tough place that our leaders are in, but they can't make informed decisions without people speaking up, making their voices heard. And, you know, they don't play in the same sandbox as us necessarily. They maybe didn't think about how this decision would impact conservationists and, you know, sportsmen. And so that's where we got to let it be known. And I think that it's important that we're raising awareness towards these issues because they may not be thinking about it. And also, not to compare administrations, but to the example you were giving earlier, I mean, this stuff was happening during the Biden administration too. And quite frankly, it's been happening long before that. And I think it was Teddy Roosevelt that was working towards making sure all of our public lands would be protected. And I know that you know a little bit more about that than I do, so you can speak to that if you want to. But at least there were people before us that had the foresight of knowing one day these wild places and spaces are probably going to be under attack. And so it's important that we protect them. That's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, I mean that's why you hear Roosevelt's name get brought up in a lot of like conservation organizations and all that. Is he kind of laid the foundation for all of it? There was more than just him, but he's kind of been the face of it, and for good reason. Like in Mississippi, for example, like it was actually a lady named Fannie Cook was the biggest proponent in opening all of our WMAs. Like we had national forest already, but WMAs was like Fannie Cook did that. But yeah, like this whole, like someone seeing value in there being a left virtually undisturbed place on the map that was there for the people and for the wildlife and for the natural resources that, thank God, was thought to be valuable long before us.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that continue to see value in that, and frankly, those people don't want them screwed with, and I'm one of them, and you are too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm curious because I've tried to look and I can't find anything. Do you know, has Donald Trump Jr. come out and spoke about this or taken a stance on this? Because this is being posed or pinned as a Republican push. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm curious. I haven't seen anything from him. Am I missing anything?
No, because I've honestly wondered the same thing. I haven't seen anything from him. Like obviously he's dude's a hunter,
Yeah.
So I've been curious about that, but I have not. If he's said anything about it, I haven't seen it, and I've looked. So I feel like it would be pretty easy to find if he said something about it. So I'm assuming he has not, but maybe I'm wrong. But I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, I hadn't either, and so that's why I figured I'd ask. Donald J. Trump Jr., if you're listening to the Tied to the Land podcast by chance, the people want to hear from you. So,
yeah,
man,
I'd love to.
I think he may be in. Let me back up. For those of you who don't know, I think most people do, but he's a huge hunter, huge outdoorsman, huge proponent of just the outdoor lifestyle. And so I think that him coming forth and speaking on this could arguably be one of the best things that could happen, is what my thought process is, saying, hey, it doesn't matter that my dad's the president. It doesn't matter that this is supposedly being pushed by Republicans. Let me prove to you that we got to protect these places, and it's important that we do so,
Yeah. Oh, that would be great if that were to happen. I don't know if it will, but it'd be great.
Do you want to speak on, and you don't have to, but do you want to touch on anything that OnX or MeatEater are doing in particular to help combat this and to help just promote these issues and just try to do the right thing here?
Yeah. I mean, so like the biggest thing like like those two companies can do is raise awareness, right? Like that's the biggest lever that both have to pull. And so like OnX, for instance, we put out a video and briefly just explaining, because again, the most impactful thing you can do is, like I said, raising awareness is awesome. But everyone that I know at MeatEater and at OnX, the individuals that work there have gone and contacted their representatives. It's because like raising awareness is huge, but we're raising awareness for the sake of getting you to let your voice be heard, right? And so both the things, like the post that we did with OnX was like walking you through the process of how to go, like the Teddy Roosevelt Conservation Partnership, TRCP. you can go to their website and they make it so easy to send an email or call in. Like, and so that like, just like, this is how you do it. Like if you're intimidated, you don't know how, this is how you do it. And so that's what, like, kind of what we've been doing is like raising awareness / like showing you exactly how to contact your representatives, showing you how easy it is, showing you that it's not scary. Like you don't have to worry. Like, again, if you're like, man, calling the office, that just kind of freaks me out. Again, you can send an email. Like it's super easy to do, and it takes minutes. Like I did it in 2 minutes time.
Yeah, I saw the video that you put out. It's really good. It just paints a picture of how easy it really is to reach out and let them know where you stand and to let your voice be heard. So maybe we can post a link to that video along with this podcast so that people can see that it's pretty easy to do so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and man, like, so I sent an email to 3 of my representatives in Mississippi. All 3 of their offices responded to me. I mean, so they see it, they hear it. You know, and like I said, I have personal firsthand experience knowing that it works. So
yeah,
by all means, please contact your representatives.
Man, I want to play devil's advocate for a second here, just because we don't know where this is going to go, right? We've had things that I won't mention specifically, but kind of shoved down our throats by the government before. And so let's say our efforts fall short, okay? And they move forward with selling off some of these public lands. In your opinion, what type of parameters would have to be set around that to ensure that we don't go down the slippery slope and to ensure that we don't continue to lose more and more public lands across the country? I mean, in your mind, is there a criteria under which some of this would maybe partly be okay? I don't want to say okay because I know that's not your stance. You know, your stance is, and mine as well, is that, hey, we want to protect our public lands and not sell off any of them. But if it got there, in your mind, what would have to happen to ensure that that's done properly and methodically and for the greater good?
Sure, man. I haven't spent a ton of time thinking about that just because I'm so abhorrent to it happening. But I have thought about it a little bit, and I've heard some options that I'm actually like that. If there is a way that could work, that would be it. But I almost, like I said, I almost don't want to go down that line of thinking.
Well, and I knew I was asking you a tough question because I know that you're not an advocate for any of the hypotheticals that we're talking about here. But like, just because I like giving that other perspective.
Sure.
Obviously, with us being hunters and outdoorsmen, you know where we stand. But if there was good to come out of it, you know, what parameters would solve both scenarios in your mind?
The only one, and this isn't my idea. This is not like I did not come up with this. But the one that I heard that I'm like, this could work potentially, is, and it would take, I mean, it would be tedious, but again, dealing in something like this, literally, in my opinion, dealing with one of the best assets we have in the country, I think it deserves tedious attention, you know. But basically, there are some public lands that are, you know, neglected, or some of them that like have virtually not inhabitable by wildlife anyway, right? And there are some of those out there. And basically the idea that was posed is if you did some sort of a trade-off, like, all right, we'll take this X amount of acres that is void of wildlife or wildlife habitat, and we'll give you this many acres, but those acres have to be matched by this that is wildlife habitat. So like, you give off 35 acres that's going to be for whatever, but in turn you have to go find me 35 acres that is wildlife habitat. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So you're switching where it physically is on the map, but you're not losing acreage. That's the only thing that I would be like, okay, I could be talked into that, you know, if it essentially creates more habitat, you know.
Right. And that's why I wanted to play devil's advocate for a second, because just going down the road of that scenario there, you get the sportsman that's up in arms and holding the torches with the flames and, hey, you're not going to take our lands. And then you say, well, what if we give you something better? And they're like, okay, I'll maybe hear you out now, but again, it comes down to, can you appeal to all types of people? Because the places that may be void of game may have some of the prettiest views, or may have some of the best camping spots, or maybe the place that someone likes to shoot their long range sniper rifle for fun. You know what I mean? There's not a one size fits all solution here, but I thought it was worth asking if there is a scenario that could maybe be beneficial.
Yeah. And the other thing is, man, like if that were to ever be a route that we went down, like you would have to have like the people that ran that program, that organization, whatever it ended up being, they would have to be so attention to detail oriented. They would have to be on top of it, because like that's the kind of deal, like if you tried to go down that route, that would be just so easy to take advantage of, right? Like, I mean, just looking at how things happen now, like the fact that it's being proposed that we sell off public lands for money, like that's taking advantage, right? So like you could see it where someone would be like, all right, and they propose this so-called even trade, but then it's not. Like it would have to be done very meticulously for it to work. But no, again, that's the only thing I've heard that I'm like, I could potentially be okay with that, but that's it. Well,
especially because, there's mega giant companies out there that have such a huge hand in politics and, the laws and regulations and legislation that gets passed. And, some of these wild spaces have some of our best natural resources, so you have these huge oil and gas companies and mining companies and, whatever, water companies, where they're like, man, if I could get my hands on that, I mean, hey, we got billions of dollars to throw at this thing. Let's see if we can make this happen. I mean, you got to be careful, man, because there's some crazy money out there, and these lands are valuable for more than just the wildlife that inhabits them. You know what I mean? And other people are sitting back licking their chops saying, yeah, let's do this thing. And they swing a way bigger stick than you or I, So that's what scares me about it is the sportsmen and women and conservationists. I mean, yes, we have so much power if banded together, but man, there's a lot of power in some of these mega companies as well. And they're pushing back for different reasons.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. There's a lot of stuff up in the air. It just is. It's just a lot of stuff up in the air right now. That's just kind of like, how's it all going to play out? Just a lot of unknowns.
Not to belittle how serious this is, but do you feel like this is just another thing? Like, and I don't mean just another thing as in it's unimportant, but it's just the thing that people are focused on right now, like whether it be transgenderism or whether it be something else, I mean, there's always something in the news, it seems like, that people are fired up about, Do you think this is just the thing right now?
And it may be because, I'm biased towards it, right? Because like a lot of other stuff that comes up that people get fired about, I genuinely, most of the time don't, Yeah. But this one I'm biased towards because it affects something that's very dear to me. So I don't feel that way. But that's me. And as far as like our community, the outdoorsman community, I don't think they feel that way either. But that's my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. So where does it end? Do you know as far as specific dates or when this stuff is being revisited? I mean, what's the timeline look like here in the immediate future for this whole situation we've been talking about?
Yeah, so I don't know the exact timeline, but I know what has to happen for it to actually be, like I said, it's made it through the House. Now it has to be the thing that, like, it's actually being put up for sale. It has to pass through the Senate. And that hasn't happened yet. That's why we're still telling people, like, please call your representative right now.
Not too late.
Like, yeah, no, it's not too late at all. Like, it's like there's very much still time, but not a lot. So, like, call them yesterday and today, yeah, that's what has to happen. If it goes through the Senate, then Yeah, code red.
Yeah, yeah. Man, I don't. It's hard to think about, really. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
not just, of course, those two states. They're important, but where my mind immediately goes to is what's next, who's next, which state's next, which piece of public land is next. Gosh, it could just get out of hand so quick, and that's what's
Oh,
scary to me about
yeah,
it.
it's not going to stop. Like if it happens, it won't stop. I'm not saying that we couldn't. I'm not saying like I mean, don't get me wrong. Like worst case scenario, this happens and that stuff gets sold off. If it goes to another state and they try to sell another state's public land, I'll fight just as hard. But
Yeah,
it'll be more of a uphill climb because again, that precedent's been set.
yeah, no
So
doubt.
that's why this is so important. It's like don't set that precedent. Don't do it.
Yeah. Man, anything else on that topic that we didn't hit on that you want to touch on? Again, I know you've been really involved with it. You're working with a lot of people who are involved with it. Did we miss anything?
I don't think we missed anything. I would just go back and emphasize again at the risk of sounding like a broken record, like please, like take the time, reach out to your representatives. It is so simple to do. It doesn't take long. It takes them like I'm serious. You could reach out to all of the representatives in your state about this issue and you could accomplish it in under 5 minutes, probably more like 2 minutes, honestly, if you go through the resources like TRCP has or Howl for Wildlife has.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're talking about this, and it kind of reminds me maybe something that a lot of people resonate with. Like a lot of folks have seen Yellowstone, and the whole basis of the show is them trying to protect their ranch from people coming in and forcing them to do things they don't want to do. While this is a little bit different, if you could think of the Yellowstone Ranch as a natural place that everybody gets to enjoy, and then people are coming in trying to take it away from you. I mean, fight for this the same way you'd fight for the Dutton Ranch, I guess is what I'm getting at for all you Yellowstone watchers out there, because this is way, way, way more important. But
Yeah.
man, I appreciate you so much. This is the Tied to the Land podcast. And so I always like asking what makes you tied to the land. And I don't want you to answer that generically because I feel like everybody knows now you're a hunter. Everybody knows that you're into outdoor conservation. But I mean, what is it about the land that just grounds you and kind of creates the life that you have, the lifestyle you live?
Yeah, that's I'll answer that the best way that I can, and it's gonna sound like that it's gonna sound like I'm being hyperbolic, but I'm not. If you were to draw back, like if I were to draw up everything good that I have in my life, every good memory that I've got, just about virtually every good memory that I've got, some of my most important friendships, my relationships, my job, my career, my hobbies, like it can all be traced back to the land and experiences and memories that the land has allotted me to have because of the resources, because of the animals that live on it, because of the scenery, the views that I get to see on it, because of the way the air smells when I go out there. Like all of it, virtually all of it can be tied back to the land. So like, I really don't have much to offer anybody if I don't have if I don't have a blank place on a map to go play around in. I really don't. And again, that's why I say that at the risk of sounding like I'm being over the top, but I swear I'm not. Like it shaped everything that I am, and I don't want it gone. Any of it, any of it.
Yeah. I love that, dude. I can completely resonate with every single thing you just said because my life trajectory, it's been the same way for me, and I know there's a lot of other people out there listening that they can relate to what you're saying. So Lake, we've already been over, there's probably not too many Lake Pickles out there in the world if somebody was to Google your name, but if somebody wanted to get a hold of you or follow you on social media, how would they do so?
If any of those platforms, if you just search Lake Pickle, you'll find me. That's the thing. There's not too many of me around, so I'll typically be the first one to pop up.
Man, you told me really quick, we're about to wrap up here, but you told me the story of there's a reason. What was it, a family name or Lake had something to do with like how did the name come about? You told me the story and I can't remember it.
All right, I'm going to tell you where the name Lake came from. I'm going to tell you the full story from start to finish. You ready? It's going to take a while. My dad loves to fish. That's it.
So he named you Lake. I love it.
That is the beginning and end of it, Mike. My dad.
I love it.
My dad is an obsessed fisherman, and that's where the name came from.
Well, maybe you should name your first child Turkey or something like that. Turkey Pickle. Sure. That would be equally epic. Turkey Pickle.
Yeah, you wouldn't forget it. That's for sure.
No doubt. Well, man, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate the heck out of you. I wish you all the best in everything you're doing with OnX and MeatEater. And for those of you that have listened to this far through, Lake talked earlier. I mean, he's happy to be a resource for anybody that reaches out to him. You know, humble guy. He's a great guy. I'm sure he'll help you in any way he can. So, Lake, thanks a bunch, brother. Appreciate you.
Enjoyed it thoroughly, man. Thank you.